Welcome to @Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Let's get a refresh on the top Arizona news of the week.
Protesters disrupted the Senate Finance Hearing Committee on the Graham-Cassidy healthcare bill today. The hearing had to be stopped and protesters summoned wheelchairs were removed by police. This as the Congressional Budget Office released new data saying millions will be left without insurance. Now here in the Valley, the bill has also met opposition, as Drew Marine reports.
Senator John McCain came out against the Graham-Cassidy bill on Friday while protests were going on outside of his office. After the news, those had heart-to-heart conversations sharing their fear over what's to come. Originally, protesters came out to plead to Senator McCain to help. While outside McCain's Phoenix office, word came that he would vote no. But Senator Flake also came out on Friday supporting it.
Two senators, including Senator McCain, have announced opposition to it. I just wanted to say that I'm still in favor of it. I hope that we can get it across the finish line.
But as the day went on, it became less about protesting and more about sharing how the Graham-Cassidy bill would impact their daily lives.
I got a letter of medical necessity stating that I literally cannot use the other catheters. My insurance refuses to give me the catheters until I can get 2 UTIs. So I have to get 2 UTIs with the other catheters before they'll actually cover the ones that work for me and that I can use, because I'm a quadriplegic, so I have limited hand function. I'm paying $1,000 a month just to pee.
I rely heavily on Medicaid for services like caregiving hours and stuff like that. And if the state was to switch to block grants for funding, eventually there'll be cuts to my services, which would make more burden on my parents who work full-time to be able to take care of me, and eventually overwhelm them to make me have to resort to living in a nursing home because I don't have any other option.
Protesters stressed that the bill can impact everyone.
I think everyone needs to understand that you can be walking across the street and be hit by a car and have the reality of needing medical care. You know, it's not, oh, I'm healthy and young. Like, I was 18 and I broke my neck. I was an athlete. I had everything going for me. You know, it can happen to anyone.
The bill's authors have made changes to the legislation, but it may be moot. McCain and Senator Rand Paul have said they will vote no. And less than 2 hours ago, Senator Susan Collins says she will also vote no, which could kill the bill. Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
A deli shop in Gilbert has opened its door for business for over a year now, but their food isn't the only thing they serve in their business with pride.
Reporter Nicole Gutierrez tells us why not your typical deli hires employees diagnosed with autism and other developmental issues.
I asked my parents, how do you feel about the fact that your son will never be a normal child? That is the kind of misconceptions about autism that just need to stop.
It's this misconception that Not Your Typical Deli is trying to break with their employment policies.
Our managers and Chef W treats us not for our autism, but just like normal employees.
Cordell Shorewood, who was diagnosed with autism, working at the deli has helped him gain independence.
That's just one of the misconceptions about autism, is that people with autism don't want to work less or can't work, but they can.
According to Autism Society of Southern Arizona, more than 70% of adults diagnosed with autism that want to work are denied employment.
We're here to work, and we make a difference just by being who we are and by working as hard as we possibly can.
Chef W. Reith, co-owner of the deli, says they base their success in how many jobs they create, not on how much money they make.
Consistency is a big part of a successful restaurant. They thrive with routine, which really makes working at a restaurant very easy. It makes us owning a restaurant even happier because it runs like a top.
And according to Chef W, most customers that come in the door are because of online food reviews, not knowing that more than 70% of their employees have a type of disability.
They're like, wow, really? We just came here because, you have 5-star rating on Yelp. That's spreading true awareness.
Serving up opportunities along with their sandwiches.
Have a great day.
In Gilbert, Nicole Gutierrez, Cronkite News.
The deli's located in Gilbert near Baseline and Val Vista.
Does your teen want a tattoo? Well, there's a new study from the American Academy of Pediatrics that may back up your concerns. Reporter Mia Atkins found out some of the risks young people may face by modifying their bodies.
The study found that among high school students surveyed, 10% had tattoos and 55% were interested in getting one. On average, teens with tattoos got them around 9th grade, but the sample did show that some were tattooed as early as 8 years old.
I have tattoos that I've gotten from when I was 17, 18 years old, and I regret them every day.
Mikey Surratt, owner and artist at High Noon Tattoo in Phoenix, believes people should wait to modify their bodies until age 18. Dr. Vinny Chulani at Phoenix Children's Hospital says that there are some serious health risks that come along with tattooing, such as infections.
Some of the risks, for example, include irritation and inflammation, and that comes as a result of either a reaction to the pigment or to anything that might have been added to a pigment.
New tattoos require up to 2 weeks of proper care for it to heal. That's a big responsibility for an adolescent.
I don't think there's a mental capacity there to really, truly take that on.
The study advises pediatricians to help their patients understand the commitment they are making when they modify their body.
While removal happens and while removal exists, research shows that young people probably overestimate how easy or how effective removal is. Removal is costly, removal is difficult, and removal is only partially effective.
In Arizona, minors are able to get a tattoo if they have parental consent and the parent is with them when they get the tattoo. But Surratt will not allow anyone under 18 to be tattooed in his business.
And it's just sad because they don't know any better. I think that's the biggest issue, is they don't know any better.
Dr. Chulani has 3 pieces of advice for anyone considering getting a tattoo. Make sure you go to a licensed tattoo parlor with sanitary procedures to minimize risk of infection. Understand the care a tattoo requires to heal properly. Finally, understand that removing a tattoo is not easy and does not work completely. In the Broadcast Center, Mia Atkins, Cronkite News.
Arizona Congressman Trent Franks said he will reintroduce a bill that would ban most abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Cronkite News reporter Fraser Allen Best was at the U.S. Capitol today for Franks' announcement.
For God's sakes, ladies and gentlemen, this cannot be who we truly are.
That's why Congressman Trent Franks says he will introduce again his Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. The bill would outlaw abortion after 20 weeks, when abortion opponents say a fetus is capable of feeling pain. It's at least the 3rd time Franks has introduced the bill, but he said he will continue to push the measure as long as it takes.
I heard the story of a championship rain dance group, and they never failed to make it rain. And someone asked them how they did it. They said, well, we dance till it rains. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
Marjorie Dannenfelser is president of the Susan B. Anthony List, a pro-life nonprofit. She feels that this time, pointing to the pro-life rhetoric of the Trump campaign, the tone around the pro-life movement is different.
It's been huge, of course, that the President of the United States has made this central. I talked to him about it last night, actually.
Well, hopeful, Dannenfelser acknowledges that it's still a challenge to get the 60 votes needed to get it through the Senate, where it has failed repeatedly.
Will we get to 60 votes? I think it would take a little bit of a miracle, but I do know that that very pressure in those states will lead to the election of new senators who will build our vote total for the next time around.
Preparing to introduce the bill once more, Franks is hopeful that with each time around, he's closer to passing it.
This bill will be passed on the floor of the House and will at some point be passed in the U.S. Senate. And this sunlight of freedom that you and I are standing will shine on the faces of the unborn in America again.
In Washington, Fraser Allen Best, Cronkite News.
A spokeswoman for Planned Parenthood of Arizona said courts and public opinion are on the side of pro-choice. She said Franks' latest bill is no different from any of his previous ones, and she predicted that it would meet the same fate.
Native American communities are looking into other revenue opportunities besides gaming. Reporter Emily Richardson was at the National Indian Gaming Association's Mid-Year Expo, where the idea of getting into the cannabis business was addressed.
Today in downtown Phoenix, Native Americans from across the nation came together to discuss ways to help their communities. One item discussed, whether the cannabis business could potentially help tribes' economies.
Everything that you've read
about this industry has been wrong.
Now that marijuana in some form is legal in 29 states and the District of Columbia, tribal communities are considering expanding their business into cannabis. 2 already have. This afternoon in Phoenix, Chairman Bill Sterrud of the Puyallup Tribe and David Villapando of the Pay Nation discussed how cannabis is helping their communities. Sterrud's tribe is in Washington, and they sell medical and recreational marijuana to tribal and non-tribal citizens. He says that even though there have been revenue benefits for his tribe, he believes that the most important part of cannabis is its medical use.
The revenue is good. The medicinal powers of cannabis can't be underestimated. It's been nothing but good in my mind. It's medicine, and you got to give your people medicine if they need it.
On the other hand, Villapando's tribe in Southern California is only interested in being involved with medical marijuana.
San Isabel is a very conservative general membership, and while the general membership recognizes the medical efficacy of cannabis products, they're not in favor of recreational.
Both men agree that the cannabis industry can provide good opportunities for tribal communities. The buzz around tribal marijuana started in December of 2014, when the federal government announced it would permit American Indian communities to grow and sell cannabis. In Arizona, there are 22 federally recognized tribes. In 2011, the Arizona Department of Health Services published a report where they said tribal leaders and representatives in attendance of their medical marijuana tribal consultation expressed unified opposition to the medical marijuana law. Since then, none have said if they are planning on venturing into the cannabis industry. However, according to Villapando, as the nation begins to be more supportive of marijuana, tribal communities will most likely follow behind.
Well, I think in general in society, tribes are a reflection of society's norms, and the pendulum is swinging towards acceptance.
Marijuana still isn't legal federally, so tribal marijuana is dependent on state laws. In Phoenix, Emily Richardson, Cronkite News.
A University of Arizona assistant coach is one of 10 people arrested in a huge crackdown on corruption in college basketball. An executive from Adidas and assistant coaches at 3 other universities are accused of using bribes to influence athletes' choice of schools, sponsors, and agents. Reporter Andy Krause is tracking the latest in the media center.
University of Arizona assistant Emmanuel Richardson was set to enter his 9th season under Sean Miller in Tucson. He is considered to be one of the best recruiters in college basketball. His efforts have helped the Wildcats land a top 10 recruiting class in each of the last 7 seasons. But today, Richardson is accused of being charged with fraud and bribery by the United States District Attorney Office of Southern District of New York.
Coaches at some of the nation's top programs soliciting and accepting cash bribes. Managers and financial advisors circling blue chip prospects like coyotes. And employees of one of the world's largest sportswear companies secretly funneling cash to the families of high school recruits.
It is alleged that coaches, including Richardson, accepted bribes from business managers and financial advisors in exchange for pushing the players and their families to hire these advisors once the players turned pro.
While pushing these professionals, the bribe coaches showed little regard for the players' well-being. They ignored red flags, seeing only the green of the cash bribes flowing their way.
The complaint alleges Emmanuel Richardson received a total of $20,000 in cash bribes over 2 different meetings. Richardson, according to the complaint, gave some of that money to a high school player as part of the recruiting process.
If you read the detailed allegations in the 3 complaints, totaling over 100 pages, you will find yourselves in the dark underbelly of college basketball.
In a statement released by the University of Arizona, it said it is fully cooperating with the FBI and the District Attorney's Office. It also said Richardson was suspended immediately and relieved of all his duties at the university. The NCAA only learned of the federal investigation this morning. NCAA President Mark Emmert released a statement that said, in part, "We have no tolerance whatsoever for this alleged behavior. Coaches hold a unique position of trust with student athletes and their families, and these bribery allegations, if true, suggest an extraordinary and despicable breach of that trust." Among the 10 people arrested, Adidas Director of Global Sports Marketing Jim Gatto. He is alleged to have been involved with a conspiracy that bribed players to attend Adidas-sponsored universities and then sign with Adidas upon entering the NBA. In a statement, Adidas said they were unaware of any misconduct and are fully cooperating with investigators. Arizona State University is involved with a strategic partnership with Adidas, serving as the official athletic brand of Arizona State Athletics. ASU is not mentioned in the complaint. Live from the Media Center, Andy Kraus, Cronkite News.
Would you say your last visit to Sky Harbor International Airport was satisfying? According to a new survey, more travelers are saying yes. Cronkite News reporter Nkirka Marinier takes a look at what else is taking off at Sky Harbor.
Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport has spent millions of dollars improving, and the changes are paying off.
Last year's J.D. Power Associates study, we were ranked 14th, and this year we are tied for 3rd place.
The satisfaction study surveyed almost 35,000 North American domestic travelers. Sky Harbor tied with McCarran International Airport in Nevada. Orlando was first and Detroit second. Phoenix's emphasis on creating a happy customer experience is one of the reasons for the jump.
Customer service is one of our top priorities after safety and security.
New changes to the airport, such as interactive directories, new restaurants in retail, and the ability to check wait times for security lines played a big role as well.
Really helpful for more than 80% of our travelers who come through Terminal 4, our busiest, because they can go to any of the 4 security checkpoints. So if they know what the wait time is, they can go to another one if it's less time that they don't have to wait.
City officials approved the multi-million-dollar project because of the strong economic impact the airport has. According to the W.P. Carey School of Business, it puts $12 billion in the economy annually and supports almost 60,000 jobs. But the renovations didn't cost taxpayers a cent.
The airport's funded through passengers, and basically if you use the airport, you're going to help pay for the airport.
Some of the money spent on tickets, dining, and retail go toward the airport, and flyer Brittany Kupke says the higher costs are worth it, especially when it comes to the self-service ticket kiosk installed last year.
Well, actually, the kiosk is really good because then you don't have to stand in line, which can take a really long time, especially if you're in a hurry.
To make it easier for passengers to get from the terminals to the rental car center, the city is planning to extend the SkyTrain in the near future. In Phoenix, Nkirka Marinier, Cronkite News.
Phoenix City Council has already approved a $950 million plan to fund the SkyTrain extension and is expected to be completed in 2021.
Those getting teaching degrees from a state university can get their tuition costs waived as long as they stay in Arizona to teach. It's a promise made by Governor Doug Ducey during his State of the State address. Bailey Moore explains how this program will work.
Our goal is to recruit the best and the brightest students who are committed to high standards, service to others, and have a drive to deliver the highest quality education.
With the presidents of all 3 state universities on hand, the Arizona Teachers Academy was unveiled during a news conference on Tuesday. Those that will benefit talked about why they want degrees in education.
The teachers who taught me about science, math, art, and music. The teachers who told me there's nothing in this world that you can't be if you wanted enough. I knew I wanted to change the world. And what better way to do that and better my community than with a classroom of 30 students.
Arizona ranks 49th in terms of median teacher pay, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Many become saddled with student loans after graduation.
Doctors, lawyers, business people, many will make 6 figures within a few years of graduation. But for teachers, paying off the debt from their education can take decades.
But not for those who take part in the Arizona Teachers Academy. It will provide a tuition and fee waiver to all of its members in exchange for a year-to-year contract to teach at an Arizona public school.
They could help shape children's lives in countless ways. And in doing so, these teachers are shaping the future of our state and our nation.
Ducey hopes this will encourage high-quality teachers to stay in Arizona classrooms. In Tolson, Bailey Moore, Cronkite News.
One Arizona teacher received an unexpected award for her commitment to students, sometimes under very difficult circumstances. Chicanos por la Causa says she's an inspiration, both inside and outside the classroom.
Cronkite News reporter Alex Valdez traveled to San Luis, Arizona to capture the moment. Alex?
San Luis Middle School is located just a few miles north of the border with Mexico, and it was here where this particular 7th grade teacher received the surprise of her life, a life marked by both triumphs and hardships. For the past 10 years, Lucia Alvarez has been more than just a math teacher. She's also been a support system to every student that walks through her classroom door, even on the toughest of days.
People still think that if you can't do anything else, just be a teacher. No, being a teacher, it's teaching with your heart.
And it's because of that love for teaching that comes from her heart why Chicanos por la Causa has chosen Alvarez as one of 2017's Esperanza Latino Teacher of the Year.
These are teachers with an outstanding commitment to their students, to what they do. Many of them have overcome really difficult obstacles in their life.
Many of the students in Mrs. Alvarez's class know a thing or two about obstacles. Often, they have to get up as early as 3 a.m. to get ready for school and cross the border from Mexico into the U.S. Alvarez says she has a special connection with them because she's gone through the same challenges.
Some of them, they don't have a house here, so they have to live in San Luis. They come and go every day. They have to wait in line like for 2-3 hours. I tell them, just keep on going, don't give up, never give up, because if I could do it, you can do it.
Mrs. Alvarez is one of 4 teachers receiving this award. And after 10 years of teaching, she says she wants her students to know one thing, that no obstacle is too big to overcome.
You're not only teaching the subject, you have to teach them the values, you have to teach them moral. They spend sometimes more time with us than with their parents.
Mrs. Alvarez will receive a cash prize of $5,000, and the organization also donates $2,500 to the school they currently teach in. Live in the broadcast center, Alex Valdez, Cronkite News.
Fashion choices have a direct impact on the environment. That was the message at the City of Phoenix's Sustainability Fashion Show. Cronkite News reporter Tatum Hubble shows us how we can be more environmentally conscious about our clothes.
The City of Phoenix kicked off next month's Fashion Week by hosting a show on sustainable clothing, where models wore clothes made out of recycled materials put together by local designers.
It's important to focus on sustainable or green clothing because there's tremendous waste in our consumption. We have started to treat clothes like they're disposable. We don't keep them as long as we used to. They go into the landfills faster than ever.
The longer you keep your clothes, the better it is for the environment. The Phoenix City Council has set sustainability goals to promote green living in simple aspects of life, like making smart choices with the clothes you wear and the ways you care for them. Just like recycling trash, you can reduce your carbon footprint when it comes to clothing by donating unwanted items and even shopping secondhand. The City of Phoenix is trying to get to zero waste by 2050.
Our residential customers could fill our stadium 7 times, bottom to top, with the amount of what we just throw out every year.
Hartman said the show was a fun and educational way to introduce Fashion Week, which starts October 5th. In Phoenix, Tatum Hubble, Cronkite News.
When a story comes in the morning, we're out the door as fast as we can go.
But it's also great to spend more time in communities and produce projects.
From the borderlands to the cities, the reservations, and even the state capitol, we want to get to the heart of the matter.
When the lights come on in the studio, we know our hard work is about to pay off.
We love what we do here at Cronkite News.
We're proud to tell the stories of our state.
Now, more than ever, it's important to have a trusted news source, and that's Cronkite News.
Now, here's an @Cronkite News pick of the week, a favorite from the Cronkite News staff.
Another group of activists is also sending a message through artistic expression. Cronkite News reporter Bridget Dowd shows us how street dance activism is moving people.
Those are the basic steps to the jerk stomp. But here, it's not just about moving your feet. It's about drawing attention to a political movement. Dancer and Black Lives Matter activist Shamel Bell led the lecture and dance workshop with ASU's Center for the Study of Race and Democracy.
We can completely obliterate the system as we know it now and create something from nothing and have these dreams become a reality. The dreams of freedom, the actual freedom of all people, become a reality.
Bell says she was inspired to take action when she heard about incidents of police brutality, but instead of marching through the streets,
right, left,
She decided to teach dance classes in the middle of them.
The artists are the ones that are going to win this revolution.
People from all different backgrounds came together Wednesday night to dance, discuss, and de-stress. ASU student Joy Ivy says she liked how Belle wasn't just talking at the audience members, but with them.
She kind of flipped the paradigm and let people know that this is a communal effort on both sides of the front. I don't have all the answers, you don't have all the answers. We're here to work together to find solutions.
After speaking to community members, ASU staff, and students, guest speaker Chanel Bell gave them some basic dance tools that they could use to break off into groups and create their own unique choreography.
Matthew Sandoval is a professor with Barrett the Honors College, which partnered with CSRD to host the event.
Any race, any color, any ethnicity, ability, class, all of that kind of evaporated because people were just in the movement. Not everybody likes to dance who feels comfortable, but when you start putting some of those moves in your body, you know what I mean? Like, you're breaking down walls because you're being really real with another person in that space.
Finding common ground by sharing dance space. In Phoenix, Bridget Dowd, Cronkite News.
Sandoval says Barrett plans to host future events like this one, bringing in other artists who use their work to create social change.
Cronkite News tracks your likes, tweets, and shares from all our social sites to bring you this special at Cronkite News, our weekly refresh. Join the conversation so you choose the news. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and log on to cronkitenews.azpbs.org for top Arizona stories anytime.